Hi everyone, we are here with the third session of our community challenge Learn Days. Today we have with us Sayak Sarkar. Sayak works at Red Hat. He's a senior software engineer at Red Hat, and he's been my mentor. Frankly speaking, he's one of the people I've seen, who you can talk to about open source at 2 a.m. at night, and he'll happily give you gyan on open source. And yeah, he's part of the DevC moderator team. And over to you, Sayak.
Yep. Uh, Thanks, Asta, for that wonderful introduction. So, hi everyone. Hope I'm audible. So, yeah. So, as Asta already, as Sangeeta already said, my name is Sayak, um, and I work as a senior software engineer at Red Hat, uh, and I work with web technologies a lot, and I am also a member of the DevC Pune group. Uh, so I don't think I need to give much of an introduction about myself because Sangeeta covered almost everything and a bit more. So yeah, let me just talk you take you along the session. So I'll be talking about Docusaurus during this session today. So the idea is we will start with a basic idea of what Docusaurus is, what's its, what's the story behind it, and then we will move on to a demo session. So yeah, let's move on. So to start with, we would be starting with the origin of Docusaurus, where it came from, what was the uh, what was the idea behind it, why did it come into existence in the first place, and what does it offer. So yeah, so we would, so let's take a look at the origin of Docusaurus. So sometime back, a team of developers at Facebook, they looked at the top 20 GitHub projects and found a really interesting trend over there. So what they found was 20% of these projects had documentation in the form of README, while 80% of the projects have some kind of documentation using websites. So now this was interesting because none of the top 20 GitHub projects had no documentation. That is, all of them had some or the other type of documentation there. And this kind of drives home the fact that how important documentation is for the top, for a project to be one of the top projects out there. So looking at this chart over here, and this is a chart that I picked up from one of the talks on Docusaurus that I saw some time back. Uh, this chart kind of reiterates or affirms the notion that documentation websites are really critical to helping projects to provide a better user experience for their consumers. Consumers, as in the people who want to use a documentation or solution for their projects. So the biggest question that comes to mind, having said this, is that so we all like websites, right? And documentation websites are just the best. So why aren't there more documentation websites for all the projects that we see out there? Why is it that there are so many projects on GitHub and so little of them actually have documentation related websites by themselves? Why is it only that the top few projects are the ones that are most likely to have that? So there are a lot of reasons behind this, and one of the reasons behind it is it's a lot of work to create a website in the first place, and it's quite laborious and time consuming a project process. So a few of the challenges that people face when creating a website or maintaining a website for their project is you need to have a set of artwork ready for you to build a website. Once you have those artwork, you have to dabble with some HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and whatnot. Like, you need to get your web components ready, then you need to get some of the other types of features implemented. And to top it all, you want to have a good user experience for your documentation website. And so for that, you have to build a lot of features into it. Features like document search, navigation, versioning, and more. So more often than not, when it comes to real world projects, project maintainers don't always have the bandwidth in terms of time and manpower to really put into this type of work. And what happens and what this leads to is that documentation websites usually tend to take a backseat in terms of deliverables and priorities. So that kind of creates the issue over here. So the next obvious question that comes to mind is, so what's the solution? Uh, like, how do we get around this problem, and what could have been done? So enter Docusaurus. So Docusaurus was built to tackle this exact problem, and it it's just one superheroic project which takes care of it all. So the obvious question that comes to mind then is, what is Docusaurus? So Docusaurus by definition is nothing but a static site generator that helps you to develop websites quickly and easily. Uh, so the next question that comes to mind is, there are already quite a few static site generators out there. Like probably one of the most famous ones is Jekyll. So why do you need to again have something else? And this is a very common question that comes up, and the answer to that is, even though you might create an awesome site using Jekyll or any other static site generator, you still would need to build quite a lot of documentation specific features for them. And even once you implement them, there might be quite a lot of issues in scaling up these sites when it comes to versioning, when it comes to localization, implementing search, and a whole lot of other things. So this is one of the reasons static site generators have been around for quite some time, but still a lot of people keep looking for alternatives for, especially when it comes to the implementation of documentation related sites. So the next question that comes to mind is, what does Docusaurus offer? So what are its features? So the primary features of Docusaurus are, it's powered by Markdown. So to create a new documentation, or for that matter, even if you want to post a blog, you don't have to write a lot of code. You can just write or create a Markdown document, and there you have your new page of documentation or your new page of the website ready, up and running. Docusaurus is completely built using React. So for the more techno-savvy people out there, you can really play around with Docusaurus if you know a bit of React. You can do a lot of customizations inside it. You can play around uh, and maybe completely change the look and feel of the site if you really want to. Uh, a big issue with documentation for any major project is that people from all across the world use it, right? And so these documentations, and if you talk to any technical documentation, any person who works in technical documentation, they'll tell you that uh, a big chunk of documentation is about localization. You need to have uh, documentation that is present not only in English but also in some of the major regional languages, because a lot of customers in South Asia, Middle East, and a lot of other places in the world, they want to use uh, documentation which is available in their own language. How do you support that? So Docusaurus comes as a localization ready framework. You can easily implement your documents in whichever language you want to, whichever locale you want to, and you can simply deploy it and get it up and running on Docusaurus. Uh, a very big challenge when it comes to deploying a documentation website is that, your product or your project might have different versions. You might have version, say, X.0.1 as your first release, and then after some time when you're in your version 5.6.x, X, you need to have a separation of the documentation. Probably you did not have a lot of features in your first version that might be there in your fifth or sixth iteration. So the documentation changes with every version. Maybe there are not drastic changes. Maybe there are small changes, and at times when there are major version changes or major breaking changes, your document can get completely obsolete. So how do you support people who are using various versions of your project? So you need to have some kind of a document versioning within your application, within your website as well, to support that. So again, that is where like Docusaurus comes to the rescue with proper document versioning support. And last but not least is the document search capability. So ask any person who deals with a lot of technical documentation for big projects, and they'll tell you that at times the documentation for any major project can go into hundreds of pages. So how do you find the most relevant document for you at that particular moment? So for that, a search mechanism becomes really, really important for your project, for your website actually. And a search implementation, anyone who has worked on web development and implementing some kind of a search functionality for any website knows it's not really the easiest cookie to crumble. It can be pretty technically challenging at times as well. Docusaurus, on the other hand, uh, gives us a really nice, elegant solution for this. Docusaurus has a very nice integration with Algolia, which is a search as a service provider, which you can use for implementing your own documents. So all that you need to do is like go to Algolia, sign up, and get your API key, deploy your application using your Algolia API key, and you can have document search then and there within your website ready. So yeah, that's mostly about the features of Docusaurus. Uh, so instead of talking more about like what all Docusaurus has to offer, uh, I think we can move on to the demo now, so that it makes things easier. Hopefully, the demo gods are like give us their blessings and we don't mess things up. So I'll try to walk you through the entire process of right from the beginning, like installing Docusaurus on your local system to finally publishing a site for your Docusaurus implementation, like using your Docusaurus implementation. So yeah, fingers crossed. Uh, Let me minimize this window and let's go to the Docusaurus website. So I, for this purpose of the demo, I don't know I'm feeling why, but I'm feeling extra uh, adventurous today, and I think I'll try out version 2 because version 2 is a new version of Docusaurus. It is before I go about the demo, let me just reaffirm this. Version 2 of Docusaurus is still an unreleased alpha. As you can see, it's highlighted in quite prominently on the website. If someone likes the light version, I can also switch to that. So I'll be using version 2.0 alpha.66 for this demo. If you want, you can also check out the other versions of Docusaurus. The documentation is uh, pretty clear. Like you can use it. So the first thing that we want to do when we get started with any project, any npm based project, is we want to install that particular project on our local system. Uh, so let's try it out. So let me just fire up my terminal and yeah. Oops. So let me try to install Docusaurus. Uh, so the best thing about the Docusaurus uh, installation guide now is that it directly gives you a npx command, so you don't need to manually install Docusaurus on your system. For people who are using Mac, most of what I show here would be the same for you, and even for Windows, I think uh, for npx related commands, it should be pretty similar for you as well. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is let me just create a repo on GitHub. So I think we can create if like Sangeeta Astha, do you think we can create a new Docusaurus instance for DevC Pune? I think we wanted to have a documentation website for the platform, right?
Yes, we definitely can.
Okay, then let me create a new repository for this. Maybe let's call it community documentation. If someone has a better name, uh, we can use that as well. Otherwise, let me just call it community docs for now. And let me make it public. Um, and let me just directly create a repository. Okay, so we now have a new repository, and let me copy the link. Okay, so we have the empty repository initialized. Oops. So let me now try to run the npx command to initialize the Docusaurus project. So one of the first things that you need to specify for your npx for your Docusaurus init command is that you need to specify a name for your project, and you need to specify if you want to use a template for your Docusaurus instance. So templates are kind of like pre-built uh, a pre-built package of Docusaurus which has a bunch of Docusaurus modules installed inside it, which you can directly get started with. And if you notice the at the rate next, it is actually uh, it basically specifies that I want to use Docusaurus v2. So for Docusaurus v1, it used to be just Docusaurus init. Now, since we would be using v2, we would be using at next. So I say init and I say community docs. Oops, that sucks. And let me specify the classic template for now, because yeah, I happen to know that it is pretty good. So when I run the npx command, basically the Docusaurus CLI, what it does is that it fetches all the bunch of node dependencies and sets up the entire Docusaurus repository. So it will create a new config file for Docusaurus. It will create all the templates, all the document. It will create the entire structure of our document, of our documentation project, and it'll just be a pre-built thing that we can work on. So to start with, while this is happening, I can actually show you the project structure. So once this command has run, our directory is going to look something like this. We will have a directory called blog, inside which we would be adding all of our blogs. There will be a directory called docs, inside which all of our documentation files will reside. There will be a source directory inside which you can specify your custom CSS styling if you want to play around with that. And also there is another place wherein you can add your custom pages. So there is by default, there is an index page for Docusaurus, which has its own styling. And apart from this, for adding your images, you have a static directory inside which you can add images or any static resources. And then we have package.json, Docusaurus config, readme, yarn log, and another file called sidebars. I'll be coming to sidebars once we run through the demo. So, okay, so as you can see here, we have our Docusaurus project initialized. So it says that I should do an audit fix, but for the purpose of this demo, I'll not get into that for now. So to show you what we have right now, let me just do a simple ls. Yeah. So as you can see, I have a blog directory, source, static, docs, and node module. So just as I talked about over here, we have all of them ready. So let me move into, let me just move this directory into the previous directory. Seems like I missed something. Oh, okay. Okay, so now that we have all of like everything present over here, I can remove the empty directory. Oops, I keep forgetting. Okay, and let me run VS Code. Okay, so to start with, Docusaurus gives us this project template inside which we have all of these files. So if you notice now, by default, Docusaurus gives us a few like default files as examples of some example block files and some example document files, which we can use as reference when we get started. So let me start by running a Docusaurus instance. So when I do a npm start, what Docusaurus does is that it starts the local server on which I can see the Docusaurus build. So yeah, we have our Docusaurus site up and running. And as you can see, we already have a bunch of things over here. So if I click on get started, it will take me to the documentation site. So if you see over here in the docs directory, we have 4 documents. All of them we can actually see over here. So there is document 2, which is this file. This is again a markdown file. Document 3, a style guide page, and whatnot. So let's go ahead and start by creating a page, shall we? So I go into pages and I say new file. Maybe I think there is an example already in the installation uh, site. Hmm. So if you go to the creating pages section on the Docusaurus uh, documentation, I can directly copy. Let me just directly copy this page from there and create this new file. So let me call it hello.js, and simply paste this. And once this is saved, if you look at my terminal, you will see that as soon as I save this file, Docusaurus automatically recompiles the application. So if I now go to my site, and if I go to slash hello, yep, you can see the new pages ready over there. So this is how easy it is. Let me make this a bit more clear. So I can just say hello Destiny, and I just save it, and we have our new page up and working over here. So this was about creating a new page. What about creating a new document, right? So again, it's as simple as going to the docs section. I think there's again another example for creating documents. Uh, yeah, let me copy this lorem ipsum document, which is really easy. So I go over here and I say doc, and I paste it over here. So there are a few basic conventions that Docusaurus uses for documents. So if you notice, in case of blog and in case of uh, any new documentation page, you will notice that there is this top section over here. This is the section wherein you mention the metadata for your Docusaurus page. This actually helps Docusaurus identify your page and render it on the website. So if you see, when I created this new file called new doc, I have to give a ID for that, and there is a slug that I need to define for it. So this is the ID and slug is important for all document pages. But if you want a particular document to be the home document, like when I go to docs, like when I go to get started, you see the style guide page is opening by default. The reason behind that is, if you see the style guide page, that is doc1.md, it has this slug called slash. So slug basically refers to the route that your document will be taking under docs. So when we specify that slug slash, and slug slash can only be applied to a single page, because obviously you can only have a single root element. Uh, this particular document gets rendered as the default document. So for my new document over here, let me call it new doc, and let me call it as again new doc. So I'll just save this. Um, so now interestingly, if I simply refresh this page, you will see that the new document has not appeared on the menu bar, which is weird, right? But if I try to access the new document saying slash new doc, the new document is rendered. So why is this happening? And how do we make sure that this document is actually added to the sidebar? So remember I talked about something called sidebar.js. Sidebar.js is the actual configuration from which this menu is derived. So if I want to add a new document, I can either add it to a new section or I can add it to an existing section. So for example, if I want to have a link for new doc under Docusaurus, I can just add it over here saying, okay, new doc, and I save it, and automatically you see new doc appeared over here. If I click on new doc, my new documentation page opens up. So, okay, this is all fine and dandy and everything is working for the documents. I also talked about blog, right? So how do I access the blog, or how do I add new blogs? So you can actually specify uh, the link to your blog in the navigation section in the bottom or the top. This can be handled via the Docusaurus configuration. I'll go into the configuration in a bit. Let me first show you how to add a new blog to the Docusaurus page. So if I go to the blog directory, and we already have a welcome blog, a hello blog, and a hola blog. I can remove all of this. Uh, let's see if there is already a template for a blog somewhere that we can just easily copy. Oh, yeah, there is some template document. So let me just copy this template and create a new blog over here. Uh, so, so the important thing about blogs is that when you're creating a new blog document, it follows a particular naming convention. The naming convention is the date of publishing of the blog followed by the title of the blog in all in lower cases and separated by hyphens. So let me probably say 2020 hyphen 10th October, and I say hello Docusaurus. So I created this new page and I just paste whatever is there and I save this. Now let's go back to our Docusaurus instance and click on blog. See, a new Docusaurus blog just appeared. I click on it and I see all of this. So that is the power of Docusaurus. Like, it's as easy as we have been into, we started creating the site what 10-15 minutes back. We already have a new site up and running. We have a new blog in it. We have a new page in it. We have a new document in it. So that is good, but why did we use the preset? Why did we use the template, the classic template? Well, the reason we use that is because it already gives us a bunch of options. You may or may not use it. It's completely up to you. If you want to read up more about presets, you can go to the advanced guides, and there is there's a section about plugins, themes, and presets. So the classic preset that we are using for this particular instance is it basically comes bundled in with a couple of themes. One is the classic theme, and apart from theme, it also comes with the theme for the search, the Algolia search. It also comes bundled in with the plugins for content documents, content blog, content pages, debugging, Google Analytics, Google Tags, and sitemap. So uh, because all of this is again coming bundled in with the page, that's why we went for this. Um, for people who are into toggling designs, the basic theme, the pre-built theme that comes embedded into the site, it supports a dark mode and a light mode. Now, the next question that comes to mind is, okay, this is all good. How do I customize the pages? Well, before going into page customizations, let me take you through Docusaurus configuration. So for the Docusaurus configuration, there is this file called docusaurusconfig.js. Oh yeah, by the way, the default theme is responsive by default. So That's another great thing. So coming back to the Docusaurus config, remember we created the devc Pune repository that we wanted to use for the site. So I can directly copy the repository's link, and I can straight away give put the repository's link over here. And what this allows us to do, I'll be showing that in a bit. So I just say, okay, github.com/devcpune/community docs is the name of the GitHub project. For the URL of my site, I'll say, I think it's devcpune.github.io if I'm not wrong. And for the base URL, I'll say /community docs. So basically what this will do is on devcpune.github.io/community docs, this will host the website once I publish it. Um, Let me just update the name of the site and call it uh, community docs, devc community docs maybe. Or maybe just and I won't be changing the fav icon and everything for now. Let's keep it as this. Let me update the site title to uh, community docs, and I'll let the rest of the things as is. Um, Maybe we might want to change the logo to the community docs logo. Sorry, to devc Pune's logo. Let me probably save the image to. So this is what I'll do right now. I'll just replace the static image over there. Oh, okay, it's not there. So let's see. So just saved it over here. And for the logo, let me just change it to let's see dot this for PNG, right? So I saved this, and you will notice that okay, I just got an error about the base URL. Yeah, the base URL should have a trailing slash, otherwise it kind of gets confused. Whoops. I think I broke something. So the reason this happened is because I'm running on my local system right now, and on my local system I don't have everything on the Docusaurus page pointed towards the slash community docs base URL. So let me just remove it for now and reload the page. Yeah. So once the page is reloaded, you see that yeah, we can use GitHub user content URL for the logo as well. Uh, I think so, but I've never tried that. So yeah, you can try that out. So now that we have a basic site running, let me show you how to deploy this, because we don't have much time left now. So let me show how easy it is to publish the document. Maybe let's follow the documentation for that. So let's go to the deployment page. So it's really easy to deploy a Docusaurus page. Let me say community docs. Oops. And let me kill the local server and let me do the deployment. So if you go to the Docusaurus documentation, you will see there is an entire section on how to deploy to GitHub pages. Uh, so basically, there are just 4 requirements. You need to set the organization name for your organization in the Docusaurus configuration. So it is over here. So we will just change this to DevC Pune, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it's DevC Pune. And then the next thing is the project name. So let me just change it to community docs. Then I need to set the URL. We already have the URL set to devcpune.github.io. Let me still try to access it and see if it is. Yeah. So this is the the default GitHub page for community for the DevC community Pune. And because I don't want to replace that page, that's why I'm setting the base URL as community docs. So now that we have this done, we can directly run the Docusaurus deployment command. Uh, so if we go to the page over here, there is, you can directly copy the command from here. So all that you need to do is you need to set the Git user as your own username. Sorry, the GitHub user as your own username. So if I copy paste it, let me just change it. And then I can simply, okay, let's not run yarn. Let me just do a npm run deploy. So once I run npm run deploy, Docusaurus automatically starts creating a production build for your website. So it optimizes all the entire contents of your website and creates a production build. And once it creates a production build, what it does is it deploys that production build to, it just clones that entire thing into the GHpages repo, into the GHpages branch for your repo. So if you see it, just if I go up, you'll see it just says cloning into community docs GHpages, and it starts pushing everything to GitHub. And now it's asking me for my password because I gave it the HTTPS access, and I have two-factor enabled for my GitHub password. Just let me log into it. Okay, so it's there. Now that the branch has been pushed, if you see, the repository just got updated and it has a new commit with my name, and we have the entire Docusaurus page built over here and running on the GHpages repo. Intentionally, it is deployed at GHpages because that is the branch that you need to deploy your page to GHpages, and also that keeps your master free for your actual code. Now let's follow this URL. It says that the website is live at this particular link. And if I click on this link, Uh, yeah, let me just open it, and there you have the new page deployed over here. So if anyone wants to directly check it out, you can directly go to devcpune.github.io/community docs, and we have the Docusaurus instance up and running over here. So with that, uh, we have come to the end of the demo for now. If anyone is interested, we can do a advanced hacking session on Docusaurus in the future. So for now, yeah, thank you for listening to all of to for listening to me throughout the session. And if you have any questions, we can take them now. So yeah, I think we have another 5 minutes for questions.
I don't see questions as such here. Meanwhile, I'll also try sharing the link so that
Yeah.
guys, here's the link to the site. You can check it out.
Oops. So yeah, if anyone does not have any questions, I think we are already running out of time. So yeah, let me
So I
just
think yeah, like there was one question that was asked yesterday. So um,
yeah.
what makes Docusaurus stand out compared to other static site generators?
Okay. So when it comes to static site generators, there are a lot of great static site generators out there. But what really puts Docusaurus apart is that Docusaurus is focused towards documentation websites. Uh, Static site generators tend to be focused mostly on generic static sites. That those static sites can be for anything. Like you can use them for your personal web page, you can create them for your project or whatever you want. But there are certain challenges involved with documentation related sites. Uh, you ask any technical writer, and they'll tell you that uh, no one really likes to rewrite documentation for a project in HTML and then play around with the CSS for it. It's much better, it's much easier to use some standard markdown tool like MD, like Markdown by default. And there are other documentation formats as well. But the thing with Docusaurus is it comes bundled by default with a support for Markdown. And also, like I already said, it comes with documentation search embedded into it. It is already integrated into it. It comes with quite a few features that are really useful for getting your documents up and out there as quickly as possible. So you don't have to mess around with the entire styling. So that's the main advantage of Docusaurus.
So, like one thing I take from here is because it targets the niche that it will be addressing documentation websites. That's why when you like even when we looked at the generic theme, it is similar to the website formats that we actually see when we visit the API documentations, right? So,
Yeah.
which brings me to Yash's question. He has asked that since I noticed features like blogs and pages, is Docusaurus a good method to create personal portfolio sites or is it too restricting?
So personally, I think Docusaurus is a great tool to create personal portfolio sites as well, because ask anyone who has maintained a Jekyll site for their personal blog, or maybe a GitHub page for their own personal sites. It's great. You have a lot of freedom to do whatever you like, but it also requires a lot of time and effort from your side to implement a lot of features and get things running and up. Uh, Docusaurus, on the other hand, it comes pre-built on React, especially if you're good with React and if you want to really play around with custom pages, you can do that. And not just React. If you saw the the base pages that we are using for Docusaurus, they're simple JS pages, right? So any sort of JavaScript, if you play around with JavaScript, you can do whatever you want over there. Also, because it comes bundled, like actually Docusaurus does not come bundled with blogs and stuff. It's the classic preset that we were using that comes preset that comes bundled with the blog. Uh, Similar to that, Docusaurus also supports presets. So for additional functionality for your sites, if you find some preset that you think is really nice, you can actually implement it in your site pretty easily and go forward from there. So yeah, I think like Docusaurus is a really good uh, resource for creating personal portfolio sites.
Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. Yash has written, since I notice features like blogs and pages, my website's based on Gatsby at the moment. Gotta configure tons of things. Okay, good luck, Yash. So I think that's it for the questions. We can stop recording this session. Thank
Yep.
you so much, Sayak, for taking our time and doing this session. I really appreciate it. The last time I remember you did a session for us for Git, and people still talk about it. I see so many posts where people write that, I created my first PR during the DevC local hack day, and yeah, like I still go back to those times.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked the session, and I'm glad that it's been helpful to as many people within the community. So yeah, I'm open to help anyone who is interested, who wants any help. Uh, if you want to contact me, you can contact me on the DevC group, or you can reach out to me on Twitter, or yeah, or you can check out my website. So yeah, thanks
Thank
everyone.
you.